Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Hi, very good morning. You're watching Trading Hour. I'm Ekta Batra and with me is Prashant Nair, and it's more of what we saw yesterday continuing into today's trading session. So we are not able to sort of sustain the kind of gains that we're seeing for the Nifty and the Sensex. So we've absolutely flattened out at this point in time, just about higher by around 14 odd points for the Nifty, and for the Sensex we're higher by around 50 odd points. For the mid-cap index, however, that outperformance continues, so that's a positive. So we're up around half odd % currently for the mid-cap index as well. A lot of stocks in focus, and I think I have to change my list because the PSU banks become top of mind as the government may announce details of the PSU bank recapitalization today itself. So that would be important, and that would be one of the big expectations ahead of the budget as well. So you can see that spike up which is really taking place. Besides that, we have other stocks in focus such as OMCs on Brent crude prices rising, ONGC which is rising on account of that. And we have other stocks such as Unichem, which is going to consider a buyback on the 8th of Jan, and something like Idea Cellular on the back of those fundraising plans. Hi, Prashant.
Ekta, hi. So, I think PSU banks has eclipsed all other sectors. By the way, if you look at the Nifty PSU bank index, it's the top gainer. I mean, it's got about 1.7, 1.8 odd % gains. And almost all of that spike has come through after the flash that we put out, which is still at the bottom of the screen. We'll try and get you reactions on this as well. But the PSB recap announcement likely today. The size of the recap, which could be announced today, is close to about 80,000 crores. It would need the parliamentary approval as well. And the parliament is in session, and this of course will not affect the fiscal deficit. I mean, actually the only new point of course is the timing, that the announcement may be today, and you know what form the announcement may take, etc. That we'll need to kind of look at it a bit more sort of carefully. But look at stocks. I mean, there was nothing happening in that entire space, but now you got between 1.5%, 2%, 3% gains in some cases across the board. Just put up the three largest ones: SBI, PNB, and Bank of Baroda for a quick reference, because they would have the largest weight. So SBI is now up almost 2%. Bank of Baroda and PNB will follow close behind. So 4% gains on PNB. And you've got Bank of Baroda, which is higher by about 4% as well. So these are large gains. People clambering on the PSU bank bandwagon once again after, what's been a break of about 2 months or so since the last announcement was made, and the last time these stocks rallied substantially. More gains actually, 2 1/3% now. You know, this is building up now. 86, 87 odd points on the index is what we have. The other two indices, I mean, of any meaningful sort of gain are the metal index. Look at the Nifty metal index that continues to move up. Steel, non-ferrous, everything. I mean, you could look at the Nifty infrastructure pack, which is looking up as well by about 3/4% or so. That's about it. Okay, we'll get back to more individual names and that PSU Bank recap story also in a bit with reactions. But let's get Sudarshan Sukhani in, as always, on the top of the show. Sudarshan, good morning. Good to have you here. What would you make of the market? And, of course, I mean, the activity which you're seeing suddenly in PSU banks?
Well, yes, good morning again. The markets are dull and in a trading range. There's a short sell in the Nifty, which is opening up after many weeks. If and when the Nifty goes below 10,425, that would be a short-term trade, but it's still on the short side. I do not have a trade on the long side. The banks themselves are already in a sustained downtrend, lower highs, lower lows. So all in all, a mildly bearish picture. And that could change at least intraday because of the PSU Bank news that you are talking about. I do not think the PSU Bank's news will change the texture of the market, which is mildly bearish. It is also unlikely to affect the bank stock prices for more than a couple of days. So to me, it's really a non-event.
Okay, so there's nothing in the PSU bank space that you would approach?
No, nothing at all. In fact, if it rallies, then they would become short sales at higher levels. Not today necessarily, but that's the only trade there that would open up.
Anything which stands out as maybe the biggest short selling candidate within the PSU banking space?
Well, Can Bank is a short. Even PNB on a rally would be a short. I'm not talking about today because the news hasn't come out yet. But maybe today, maybe tomorrow, they are sell on rallies.
Okay, fair enough. Sudarshan, your stocks?
Well, given the fact that we are still choppy in a trading range, there are buying opportunities. Asian Paints is a buy. In spite of the crude rise, the stock itself is now rallying from a fairly decent decline. This is a buy on dips opportunity. Coal India is also a buy. This is a stock that had a big bear market. At least it's showing a relief rally. So for intraday traders, there is a buying opportunity. And finally, Escorts. Escorts had a small consolidation. That consolidation is breaking on the upside. So we have 3 buying ideas, but they are all intraday. Don't carry them.
Okay, Sudarshan, we have a couple of Twitter queries now for you as well. So let's get talking on that one. The first one is Supreet has 300 shares of SBI at 303, wants to know whether to hold or sell. Quite a pertinent question today.
Yeah, it's a pertinent question. And I think you should hold SBI as a long-term investor. I don't have a short-term view on SBI, but as a long-term investor, hold on to it.
Okay, we have another question. Om Prakash has 488 shares of Mindtree, which he purchased at 682, and he basically wants advice on what he should be doing the long term. Again, Sudarshan, Mindtree at 682.
Sure. See, the prices are still higher than current market price, but he can't do anything about that. The worst is behind Mindtree. So, and mid-cap stocks are doing very well, IT stocks. So wait patiently. Mindtree should slowly come back to his purchase price and even give him a profit. So as of now, as a long-term trade, hold on to it.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Sudarshan, we're going to let you go now. Thanks very much for joining in and speaking to us about what exactly you're strategizing today. We do have some more F&O strategies to talk about, but first up, just let's quickly glance at a couple of these PSU stocks and how PSU banking stocks and how exactly they're doing. So State Bank of India, for example, is up around 1.5% as we speak, and the likes of PNB did come up for you. Now we're seeing incremental gains come in. PNB, which is spiked up around 2%. The likes of Allahabad Bank should come up. Bank of Maharashtra, there was that preferential allotment news in any case for Bank of Maharashtra. So that stock was very active. Allahabad, there's more news about the RBI putting it under PCA. So that's the reason why you're not seeing that stock react too much. But Bank of Maharashtra is up around 3.7%, and a couple of others such as UCO should come up for you as well. All of them spiking up on the back of that PSU Bank recap news. But here, Rudramurthy of Vacha Investments is with us to provide us more color on the F&O space. So, Rudramurthy, over to you. What are you telling your clients?
See, for me, market is definitely consolidating and it is not giving any big side movement, but still stock specific lot of good counters are there to buy in F&O. For me, Jain Irrigation looks really, really good. Lot of open interest addition is seen. On the positive side, with lot of delivery based buying, I expect even more a populistic with agricultural focused budget, and this is one stock which can do wonders from current level. I expect a huge target of 175 on Jain Irrigation. One can even roll over their future contract for a month or two and have a stop loss of 120, a very good risk reward trade, and one can definitely look at going long on Jain Irrigation. I have a second buy call on Fortis Healthcare. Again, huge accumulation has been seen yesterday with delivery based buying. This stock is headed towards 185 rupees. Have a stop loss of 155 and one can go long even on Fortis Healthcare. And I have a last buy call on Hindalco. Today's stock has given clear-cut breakout above levels of 208. And a lot of open interest addition is seen today and charts are looking very, very bullish. Hindalco can head towards levels of 300 in short term. Have a stop loss of 275 for this long trade.
Rudramurthy, thanks very much. So those 3 trades coming in, Jain Irrigation, Fortis and Hindalco, 3 single stock futures which he's put out. Sapna is back with us. She's broke the story that the announcement on the PSU Bank recap could be made today. Sapna, thanks for joining in again. What sort of form could the announcement take? I mean, essentially, what are the details that the announcement will touch upon?
Hi, Prashant. Well, not too many details as of now, but what we understand is there's been a bit of to and fro on this, because earlier the indications were that since the bonds are going to be offline, probably Parliament may not be required. But now we understand very clearly that yes, it may be on the cards. So it may come today in the form of the additional supplementary demands for grants. That's what we are given to understand as of now. But let me clarify, it's not listed anywhere in the supplementary agenda for the Parliament business for today. So we have to wait and watch on that. That is one. Second, clear indications, and this is what we had been saying earlier also, that the first tranche of the bonds, maybe in the range of approximately 80,000 odd crores. We had been reporting that it will be about 70,000 odd crores consistently. That was a number that we have been putting out. So somewhere in the range of 80,000 odd crores. That's the second aspect. Third, of course, related to the first point that I made, that this is going to be offline. There have been clear indications earlier also from various levels of the government. So they are sticking to that. But some kind of accounting will have to be done because overall will get, factored in the overall debt picture. So for that, probably the parliament note is required. Last but not the least, we also are given to understand that the modalities may follow after the announcement today. So that will be the most critical part. We'll have to see, what is the tenure of these bonds, the coupon and all of that. So the issuances, what will be the calendar for the issuances? That is what we'll have to wait and watch for that. But 80,000 odd crores first tranche recap bonds, that's for sure. And most likely, but taking parliament not through the supplementary demands of them.
Okay. Sapna, have your sources told you about how exactly the funds would be broken up amongst the PSU banks? Do we have that kind of color as yet?
Not yet. But, if you work on the principal announcement, well, it's going to be performance linked.
Okay.
So, obviously, it will be the big banks who have been performing well. You have to look at the balance sheets, how they have performed over the last, around about, 2 to 3 quarters. And the quantum will be worked out accordingly. But to be very honest, nothing at all on that as of now.
Okay, all right, Sapna.
Market is still there, about 15 odd points, 10,458. Futures at about 24-point premium. The Nifty PSU Bank Index has come off a little bit. It's up 2%. It was up 2.5 at one point. And you can see that across stocks which were up between 3.5 to 4 are now up just under around 2% or so. But we'll wait for that announcement as it happens. As Sapna pointed out, it's likely that it comes today. Let's shift focus to what's happening in the world of commodities and currencies. Manisha is here with a roundup of exactly that. Manisha, good morning.
Morning, Prashant. And it is the crude oil prices which really continue to make the news there. We are looking at a fresh 2.5-year highs on that. And while in the overnight markets, you saw more than 2% gains, it is trading nearly 1/4 to 0.5% higher even now. So 62 on the US crude and $68 per barrel is being crossed in case of the Brent prices. Nearly 0.7% of gains for NYMEX and 0.5% up for Brent. So this is a new 2.5-year highs that we are seeing for the crude varieties there. The latest trigger, of course, comes in from the Iran unrest, which has been going on for the last couple of weeks now. Iran is one of the major members in OPEC in sense of production, the third biggest that is, and that unrest really is weaving its way into prices. Apart from that, markets are also anticipating yet another week where you will see the US weekly inventories decline. 5 million barrels is what has been put in by API. If that happens, then this would be a 7th straight week of decline in inventories. In the previous year, we already have seen the US crude inventories decline by 20%. The OECD global supplies and the inventories also have been on a declining spree, and that has been supportive. Even as the pipelines, that is the North Sea and Libya pipelines, are almost back fully functional, that premium hasn't gone off prices. We haven't seen any profit taking happen since. It clearly has been a buy on dips. The markets do anticipate that the OPEC compliance that we have seen in 2017 may continue for 2018 as well, and that in turn also keeping the prices higher. David Lennox, analyst at Fat Profits, now joins us to talk more about that. David, hi, good to have you. What a start to 2018 after nearly 18% gains for Brent. We've already done nearly 5% up in last 1 week. What is your sense? Are these prices sustainable to start with?
Oh, good morning, Manisha. Look, if you have a look at the factors, and you went through the bulk of them just a few moments ago, if you have a look at those factors, we do expect them to continue on into 2000, right throughout 2018. Of course, the unrest that we're seeing in Iran, we can't quite put a timetable on when we may see that come to an end. But these sorts of events do tend to drag on. But of course, they can be, unfortunately, certainly finished very quickly as well. So with that in mind, also you've got to remember that Iran is also in conflict with the Saudis in the region. And when you've got Iran with about 4 million barrels of production a day, and the Saudis with close to, say, 10 million barrels of production a day, opposite ends to each other, then the markets are always going to be jittery in terms of pricing of oil. And we've seen that certainly in 2018. especially since there's been now broader conflict inside Iran.
And it's not just Iran. I mean, you look at South Korea, Saudi Arabia, Russia, there are political unrest coming in from these centers as well. How much of that premium would you see in prices?
Certainly in the oil price, there wouldn't be, traders wouldn't be too concerned about what's physically happening in the Korean Peninsula. But of course, there may be consequences to that if it happened to broaden out into a full-scale war of some sort. That would then, we believe, put a bit of a crimp on demand for oil as we see particular countries being perhaps bombed or otherwise. So we don't expect that to happen. So traders would be looking closely at what's happening, but at this point in time, it would have minimal impact on the oil price. It is more what's confined to the region and those two big producers inside OPEC that do stand on opposing sides on a number of conflicts around the Middle East and Africa.
David, 70 seems to be coming in sooner than what the markets were really preparing themselves for. We are already above 68, less than $2 away from 70. How soon could 70 be a reality now?
Look, we certainly do believe that if we continue to see the impact of lower inventories inside the US and the ongoing geopolitical unrest in Iran and also between the Saudis and Iran, that's going to continue to push the oil prices higher, and that momentum may gather further pace as those conflicts continue to drag on. We expect at the end of 2018 to see the Brent price at about $84 to about $74, $74 to $84 by the end of calendar 2018. So we do expect to see further increases in the Brent price over the course of 2018 on the back of, we believe, stronger demand going into the end of this year.
David, one final question, and what that would really mean for the consumer countries like India, with prices almost estimated at 74 to 84 on the higher side for the rest of this year.
Look, certainly, unfortunately, if we do see that trend in the oil prices continue higher through 2018, that will obviously mean higher prices at the pumps. But a lot will have to do also with the movement of your currencies against the US dollar. If we see currencies starting to weaken and the US dollar rise, that's going to further, unfortunately, impact on petrol prices at the pumps. So watch very closely what's happening there. But certainly we do believe that the base oil prices are going to put pressure on those countries that import oil.
Okay, all right, Manisha as well as David, thanks very much for joining in and taking us through what's happening in the commodity space. We need to take a break now with the news that the markets are barely changed from the last time we checked. We have the mid-cap index, which is just about moving higher. So we're 0.5% higher currently for the mid-cap index. And let's see whether this advanced decline ratio sustains into the second half, something that we haven't been able to do.